everyone, this is Arrow, and welcome back to Sundown Moon Up Podfics. Today we'll be continuing Stray Cat by SkylarSkyHigh and Terox X, Chapter 7, Summary. Shouta finally meets his stray again. Izuku was waiting in an alley where he knew Shouta would pass. Shouta passed when he saw a stray. He was glad to see him, but Stray didn't want anything to do with him. He should respect that. "It's been really chaotic lately," Stray said nonchalantly, but it was a loaded question. Shouta gave a nod. "I'll just leave now," he replied. "This was your doing, wasn't it?" "Not just mine. You started the rock slide," Shouta replied. "I wasn't the one who lost their life," Izuku said and looked away. Shouta sighed. "I know," he mumbled. "Why?" Izuku asked. "You just had to tell Sakutachi. You didn't need to start any of this." "The situation was shitty, so I changed it," Shouta replied. "No one cared before." Shouta shrugged. "I care." "I don't understand you." Izuku stared at him. "That's right," Shouta said gently. "What do you even wish to accomplish?" Izuku asked with a frown. "With me?" "Nothing," Shouta replied. "And I'll leave right now if you want me to." Izuku frowned and looked away. "If I trust you, what's going to happen to me?" "I won't let anything bad happen to you," Shouta said gently. "You can decide for yourself what you want to do. I won't force you to do anything." "Why should I trust you?" Izuku frowned at him. "You can easily take away everything from me. Even my freedom. You can take everything away. How can you even guarantee that I'm safe with you?" "You don't have to trust me," Shouta replied. I don't want you to force yourself." "You're avoiding my question," Izuku glared. "Everyone makes mistakes," Shouta explained. "And I know I'll make mistakes too. I don't want to betray your trust." Izuku's shoulders deflated a little, and he looked conflicted. "I won't lie to you," Shouta said. "Trusting someone is hard when you've been hurt. I know that." "You don't know anything," Izuku growled at him. Shouta winced. "I'm sorry," he apologized. "But I know what it's like to be from a broken home, to be bullied for your quirk, or lack thereof." "So what, you have friends?" Izuku glared. "You have people who cared about you. You have a chance to be someone. You don't know what it's like to be seen as nothing." "You have a chance too," Shouta said gently. "I didn't get my chance until I was 16. Izuku stared at him, not as mad, but still wary. Shouta looked at the kid. "I want to help you, but I won't force you to do anything. It would be cruel, and I'd just continue the cycle of abuse that my parents started with me." The kid looked conflicted and in pain. His brows furrowed, and he just took a step back. "I shouldn't trust you," he said, as if trying to convince himself. He turned tail and ran. Shouta looked after him and sighed quietly. Failed yet again. He knew he should have expected that. The kid was hurt. He'd been betrayed. There was no reason for him to trust anyone, and the risk of trusting the wrong person were too great. He understood. He just needed to give the kid his space, give him time. It was hard to reach out. He knew how hard it was. It had taken him so long to accept Hisashi and his family's help. Even then, he kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it just hadn't, and it had all been so confusing for so long. So he understood the kid. He'll be there for him when he reached out. He'd wait as long as he needed to. It took another month before he met Stray again. This time, the vigilante approached him. He was still hesitant and skittish. Shouta stayed a good distance away to avoid startling him. The kid looked like he was at war with himself. Shouta patiently waited for him to start doing what he wanted to do. After a minute of silence, Izuku steeled himself and looked up at Shouta. "Can I stay with you for the night?" Shouta blinked. "Sure," he agreed easily. "What do you want to eat?" he asked, trying not to let on how shocked he was. The kid actually looked surprised. I don't care. Shouta nodded. I was thinking of maybe making some ramen today. Izuku nodded. I don't mind ramen. Shouta smiled. Ramen then, he hummed. Izuku kept his head down. All right, do you have to do something before this, or will you just join me right now? Shouta asked gently. I don't have anywhere to go, Izuku said quietly. That sounded less of I don't have anywhere to go right now, and more like I don't have a home to go to. Shouta nodded, taking it in stride, even though his mind was screaming at him to protect this child. All right, follow me then, he said gently. You can change your mind at any time. The kid nodded a little. Shouta started heading to his apartment. He noticed that the kid followed him to a safe distance, far enough that he could run away without him being able to catch the kid in time. That was all right. Kid, I have a roommate, but he's not there right now. Just a warning, he said gently. Izuku winced but steeled his nerves. Anything else I should know? 2 kittens, Shouta replied. I can put them in my room if you're uncomfortable with them. No, it's fine, Izuku said quietly. I don't mind kittens. Shouta smiled. His stray liked cats. That was amazing. He didn't have a big place. A 2-bedroom apartment was enough for him and Izashi, plus kittens. They'd started out using a bedroom each, but that had luckily changed. Now they had a spare bedroom for the stray to sleep for the night. Shouta unlocked the door to their apartment building. His 2 kittens mewed and ran towards him like tiny bunnies. Shouta smiled softly. Hey there, he hummed and quickly picked them up. They both mewed at him. Shouta smiled and cuddled them close. How are you 2? Are you hungry, little ones? They mewed loudly at him. Shouta smiled. Let's get you some food, he murmured. Izuku watched him curiously as Shouta went to the kitchen with the loud kittens. Shouta cooed at them softly and got them some dinner. The kittens pawed his legs and jumped around him as they eagerly waited for food. Shouta placed it down with a smile. The kittens dug into their food with little murps. Shouta smiled brightly. So adorable. Then he remembered his own stray and looked back to see Izuku standing by the doorway, staring at him and the kittens. Shouta flushed a small bit. Sorry, I got sidetracked a bit. It's okay, Izuku said quietly. He stared at the 2 kittens. They're cute. Shouta smiled. Yeah, he murmured, and went to wash his hands before preparing the food. Feel free to sit down, he said, and prepared the ramen. It'll take a bit. Izuku stared in shock when he saw the ingredients. You're not making instant ramen? Of course not, Shouta replied. I'm making it fresh. Why? Izuku asked. Because it's more healthy that way, Shouta explained. I'm fine with instant ramen, Izuku said quietly. You don't have to do this much. I want to do it though, Shouta said. Izuku frowned but didn't argue more. Shouta continued cooking. He could feel Stray watching the entire time. He knew why, to make sure he wasn't adding anything extra to the ramen. The fear was understandable. He made sure to show everything he was doing. The kittens finished their dinner and approached Izuku curiously. One of them mewed. Izuku stared down at the kittens. The golden one pawed at his leg. Izuku stared down at the kitten. The kitten meowed. Izuku nodded back. The kitten looked at him curiously. Izuku meowed back. One of the kittens meowed happily. Izuku meowed back once again. The kitten purred happily and cuddled into him. Izuku blinked down at it and sat down to pet it better. The kitten mewed happily, leaning into the touch. You're friendly, Izuku muttered. The other kitten watched him curiously. Izuku gently pet the kitten in front of him. The kitten mewed happily and licked his hand. Izuku gently pet the cat. The cat looked super happy with that, as shown by the purring. Izuku gently scratched behind its ears. The kitten mewed happily. Izuku cooed at the kitten. The kitten purred happily. Shouta continued cooking the ramen while the stray was occupied with the cats. He didn't want to interrupt. He looked so relaxed. The kittens climbed Izuku curiously, playing around him. They mewed happily. Izuku tried to keep up with their energy, but the kittens were bouncy. It was hard. Cats were so energetic. He was getting tired just watching them. But they looked so happy. He couldn't bring himself to make them stop, not like he could. They were just so cute. Izuku was distracted by the cats long enough for Shouta to finish the ramen. Shouta approached Izuku. "Food's ready," he said, to avoid startling him. Izuku looked up at him before standing up, gently lowering the kittens climbing all over him. They switched, Izuku getting some food and Shouta taking the kittens. Izuku stared at the ramen. "I can taste some of it so you know that it's safe," Shouta offered. Izuku looked at him and nodded. Shouta smiled. He gently placed down the kittens and got himself a spoon to taste it. Izuku watched him as he ate. "See, everything's okay," Shouta said gently. Izuku stared at him for a moment, eyes calculating before he reached out to take a sip. Shouta smiled and picked up the kittens again. Izuku stared down at the ramen and started eating. Shouta sat down a respectable distance away from him and cuddled the kittens. He had finally gotten to feed the stray. That was a big step. He was so happy about that. Izuku finished his ramen quickly. Shouta took his plate and put it away. Izuku kept his eye on Shouta. Shouta hummed. "I'll show you where you can sleep," he decided. Izuku looked up at him. "Okay." Shouta walked down the hallway and led his stray to his old room turned guest room. Izuku looked around the room. It was plain. He didn't see cameras. There was a window to exit. "I know there's a window, but it's hard to get out safely. While I know you're capable, I'd prefer you to use the door to avoid injuries," Shouta said. Izuku frowned and stared at him. He didn't trust the adult at all. He would rather break a bone. Shouta blinked. "Do you at least want a rope?" he offered. "It might help." Izuku shook his head. He didn't trust him. "All right," Shouta hummed. Izuku continued to look around. The room didn't look dangerous, but he didn't trust it, not fully. He didn't know what to do. "I'll leave you alone to rest," Shouta said, as he turned around. Then Izuku was left alone. The green-haired boy stared at the door for a moment before he looked around the room. It was okay. He searched for cameras. He searched high and low, even the crevices. He didn't want to risk anything. There was nothing. Izuku frowned and checked the window. Nothing either, just a normal window. He opened it and looked outside. It was pretty high. It would be hard to get down uninjured, but it was better than getting captured. He couldn't be captured. Things were different now, yes, but how different? He didn't want to risk it. He didn't want to die or to be locked up or tortured. He didn't want to be hurt. He had to be careful. He went over to the bed and sat down. He hadn't been in a bed in years. It was soft and fluffy. Izuku frowned as he stared at it. He shouldn't lie down. If he died, he would fall asleep. It would leave him vulnerable. He'd take the chair. Izuku didn't get any sleep that night. He was used to it. It was all right. What surprised him, though, was that nobody came to attack him. The whole night he stayed awake to see if Eraserhead would come in and take him, or anyone else. But no, he was left alone till morning. There was no problem. It was quiet and kind of peaceful. His anxiety didn't let him enjoy it much. He didn't want to risk it. But he got to stay warm and pretty safe during the night. That counted for something. Shouta hummed softly as he made breakfast. The kittens played around the kitchen as he cooked some eggs on the stove. He wondered how his stray was doing. Hopefully he got some sleep. Knowing him, he probably hadn't, though. He understood. He just needed to show the kid that he wasn't in danger. It would take a while, he knew that, but he could be patient. He could do it. After a moment, he heard footsteps. Shouta looked up. He saw Stray walking over towards the kitchen. The kittens bounded over to him and pawed at his feet. Shouta smiled softly. "Morning," Izuku mumbled, staring down at the playful kittens. "Morning," Shouta replied. "They're too lively," Izuku said, but kneeled down to pet them. The kittens mewed happily and purred. Izuku pet them gently. It was kind of nice. He glanced up and saw Shouta cooking on the stove. Eggs, from the smell of it. Shouta smiled at him. Izuku looked away from him. Shouta took the hint and resumed cooking. The morning was spent in silence, well, at least until Hisashi woke up. Shouta had to say that he really was quiet compared to his usual behavior. He hoped Stray wouldn't react badly to Hisashi. Hisashi smiled brightly and waved at the kid before going to the kitchen. Izuku stared at him warily, but waved back. Hisashi hugged Shouta happily. Shouta smiled softly. Morning sunshine. Good morning, kitten, Hisashi said with a bright smile. How are you? I'm fine, Shouta said softly. Did you sleep well? It was all right, Hisashi hummed. I made you sunny-side-up eggs, Shouta said with a smile. Hisashi smiled softly. Awesome. After the eggs were done, Shouta plated them and placed the food on the table. Hisashi followed him with a smile. Kid, Shouta called, and Izuku looked up from the kittens. The kittens meowed at him, wanting more pets. Come and eat, Shouta encouraged. Izuku looked at the food warily. I can taste it if you want, Shouta offered. Izuku nodded. Shouta reached over and tasted each one. Izuku watched his every movement warily. Once Shouta was done tasting, he smiled encouragingly at Izuku. See, it's safe. Izuku gave a silent nod and started eating. It tasted good. He liked it a lot. It had been a while since he'd eaten an actual breakfast. Shouta smiled a little in relief as he watched Izuku eat. He seemed to be enjoying it. The cats played around under the table as the trio ate. They looked so happy and carefree. Izuku was almost jealous of them. The cats didn't have anything to worry about. They could just trust without repercussions. He was jealous. He wanted that too. But he wasn't a cat. He didn't have the luxury of being loved and fed every day without fighting for his life and freedom. That was shitty, but he couldn't change it. He learned to accept it. He'd leave after breakfast. Soon later, they all finished eating, so Hisashi and Shouta went to do the dishes. That's your stray? Hisashi asked quietly. Shouta nodded. He's smaller than I expected, Hisashi said while washing the dishes. More of a kitten than a cat. It kind of worries me that with everything that's happened. Yeah, Shouta sighed. I just want him to be okay. Give him time, Sho, Hisashi said reassuringly. Shouta nodded. He'll probably leave soon. Hisashi turned his head when the kittens mewed just in time to hear the door shut quietly. I think he already did. Shouta sighed. Yeah, I was hoping to give him some lunch. He'll be back, Hisashi assured. You showed him that you're not a threat. Small steps. I hope so. The kittens mewed at the door, calling for the new person to come back. The door didn't open, despite their calls. All right, everyone, that is the end of Chapter 7 for Stray Cat. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.